Really? Don't worry about it. I'm about to get started now. Yeah. I forgot what I wanted to talk about.
Greetings, 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 greetings. I am King Clifford Jefferson, a Senator Godfrey, the fifth count of Banju, the son of folk, the ruler of Jerusalem. I'm the reincarnation of King Edgar the Peaceful, which we here at the English Third Temple Church of England, known as the Vicar of Christ, or Melchizedek, i.e., better known as what we call the King of Righteousness. It is October 15th, 2024, which is equivalent to our birth year 2974. I'd like to greet you in the name of my queen, Sister Galveston from the House of Galveston, Archbishop Belmont from the House of Belmont, as well as all those who have paved the way for us to be here. That would be our predecessors, our successors, in lieu of our ancient forefathers who existed out what we call time immemorial. This lesson today will be titled All IDs Lacking a National and Citizenship Points of all ID lacking nationality and citizenship under the law is fraud. Once again, all ID lacking nationality and citizenship under the law is fraud. Okay? It's fraud. So with this one, we need all of you who are going to be viewing today, as well as those who will be viewing later, to really take this lesson seriously. Okay? Because something's coming down the pipe that I don't think any of you are aware of in regards to deportation. Okay? Very important. We can all be talking about a whole lot of things, but the things we're talking about is not the right thing. Okay? So, all those who think they're well advised in their circumstances and their conditions and their, in lieu of their well being, once you watch this lesson, you will think different. You have a different understanding about your status at law. Okay? And without further ado, let's get started. Once again, I'd like to give honor to uh, uh, our forefathers because they really have preserved us as a people. It's like the dead leaving an inheritance for the living. So it's very important to understand why it is that I do what I do for the heirs and successors based upon the estates and lands, which is the inheritance that was given by the grantor in lieu of the allodial possessions that the grantor had under his radical title, in lieu of the control over the overseas possessions that he had. Okay? So everything that I say, speak, is right on point in regards to understanding the common law. The common law protects our citizenship here in North America. If you don't fall under the common law, then you have no protection here in North America. Okay? It's very, very important you understand that because what's coming around the pipe next year, if Donald Trump gets elected, it's going to be mad. And I don't disagree with what he's doing in regards to the immigration problem. And the reason why they don't want the immigration problem to stop, because their money depends upon it. The states, i.e., the United States, money depend upon immigration. We must comprehend that. Everyone hold that thought. All right. So the money that the United States make is based upon immigration and naturalization. Okay, which are the processes that they use in lieu of identifying their citizens with an identification called a nationality. But there's different interpretations on the word nationality as defined by different countries. Okay, so please pay very close attention to what's being said by those who are telling you what's going to happen. Okay, Donald Trump issue is regards that the foundation of America was built by the people, okay, by the true subjects. All right, he didn't say who they were, but it said that all that reserved for the people is now given to foreigners. Okay, and we know that the United States makes money off foreigners. Okay, every act of citizenship that was created by the United States was based upon inducting foreigners into the fold of their government. That's based upon the uh, Calvin's case, in lieu of the Settlement Act of 1701, the Naturalization Act of 1790, the 14th Amendment, as well as the Immigration Act. Okay? All these are tools that were implemented for the purpose and intent of immigration, okay, and citizenship. Citizenship for immigrants, okay? Citizenship for immigrants. That includes Black people as well. All right. So please pay very close attention about what's going on in your world presently. Let's get started. Y'all gonna like this one. Any donations, free and common sockets, please send them to the Third Timothy English Church of England or to your king, $ Clifford Jefferson L. You appreciate your free and common sockets. You rewarded accordingly for that. I'm still waiting for your name. The brother, somebody from the tribe Tides. You said I'm here. I asked, what's your name? I need to know who I'm talking to. Okay. Once again, brother from or sister from Tribe Tides, you stated I'm here. What is your name? Okay, let's get started.
Former President Donald Trump now pledging a sweeping immigration crackdown. He wins the White House again. Among his promises, mass deportations, ending birthright citizenship, and denying entry to legal immigrants based on their ideological beliefs. CBS News immigration reporter Camilo Montoya Galvez.
I gotta rewind that again.
Former President Donald Trump now pledging a sweeping immigration crackdown. He wins the White House again. Among his promises, mass deportations, ending birthright citizenship, and denying entry to legal immigrants based on their ideological beliefs.
Okay, so they're saying that he's going to deny birthright citizenship as well as religious groups who have a fanatical religious belief. Okay? We must understand. Greetings, Brother Gavin, the different from the House of Different. Appreciate you coming. Wagwam. I don't know what that means, but wagwam. All right, so let's listen. He's talking about deportation, mass deportation, based upon a birthright citizenship, all right, just soil, as well as those who have a radical religious belief. You must understand what's at stake. I'm going to run that back.
Former President Donald Trump now pledging a sweeping immigration crackdown. He wins the White House again. Among his promises, mass deportations, ending birthright citizenship, and denying entry to legal immigrants based on their ideological beliefs. CBS News immigration reporter Camilo Montoya Galvez, who is following the former president in Houston, joins us now. Thank you for being here. You've written an extensive report for CBS News about what could loom on the horizon for 2025. Who in the former president's inner circle, Camilo, is pushing this, and where does this actually go in terms of a legislative agenda?
Hi, Bob. Good afternoon. Former President Donald Trump certainly believes that this is a galvanizing issue for his voters. He is hoping to use this issue again to potentially win back the White House and to return there in 2025. In fact, he has promised to oversee a complete overhaul in U.S. immigration and border policy if he is elected in 2024. The former president, that is, has promised mass deportations, the largest deportation operation in U.S. history, more specifically, and he has promised to do that by invoking a law from 1798 to deport gang members and by enlisting the National Guard to arrest migrants. He has also promised to enact new screenings for legal immigrants to deny entry to those who have certain political beliefs, such as Marxists, as the former president would call them, and he has promised to deny U.S. citizenship to the children of undocumented immigrants, those who are living here in the country unlawfully. His rhetoric on immigration, Bob, has also escalated and intensified. He recently said that some migrants here are poisoning the blood of the country. And so the former president believes that this is certainly a winning issue for him. But I do have to underscore, Bob, that many of these proposals, such as ending birthright citizenship through executive action, will certainly face formidable legal and operational challenges.
That's certainly going to be the case. The courts will be looking at all of this if it ever happens. Camilo Montoya Galvez, thank you so much for being here and for your reporting.
Okay. There you have it. As
Joe
you can see.
Biden has launched an illegal foreign invasion of our country, allowing a record number of illegal aliens to storm across.
All right. Do I want to show this? Yeah, let's show this.
Joe Biden has launched an illegal foreign invasion of our country, allowing a record number of illegal aliens to storm across our borders. From all over the world they came. Under Biden's current policies, even though these millions of illegal border crossers have entered the country unlawfully, all of their future children will become automatic U.S. citizens. Can you imagine? They'll be eligible for welfare, taxpayer-funded health care, the right to vote, chain migration, and countless other government benefits, many of which will also profit the illegal alien parents. This policy is a reward for breaking the laws of the United States and is obviously a magnet helping draw the flood of illegals across our borders. They come by the millions and millions and millions. They come from mental institutions. They come from jails, prisoners, some of the toughest, meanest people you'll ever see. The United States is among the only countries in the world that says that even if neither parent is a citizen nor even lawfully in the country, their future children are automatic citizens the moment the parents trespass onto our soil. As has been laid out by many scholars, this current policy is based on a historical myth and a willful misinterpretation of the law by the open borders advocates. There aren't that many of them around. It's amazing. Who wants this? Who wants to have prisoners coming into our country? Who wants to have people who are very sick coming into our country? People from mental institutions coming into our country? And come they will. They're coming by the thousands, by the tens of thousands. As part of my plan to secure the border on day one, my new term in office, I will sign an executive order making clear to federal agencies that under the correct interpretation of the law, going forward, the future children of illegal aliens will not receive automatic U.S. citizenship. It's things like this that bring millions of people to our country, and they enter our country illegally. My policy will choke off a major incentive for continued illegal immigration, deter more migrants from coming, and encourage many of the aliens Joe Biden has unlawfully let into our country to go back to their home countries. They must go back. Nobody could afford this. Nobody could do this. And even morally, it's so wrong. My order will also end their unfair practice known as birth tourism, where hundreds of thousands of people from all over the planet squat in hotels for their last few weeks of pregnancy to illegitimately and illegally obtain U.S. citizenship for the child, often to later exploit chain migration to jump the line and get green cards for themselves and their family members. It's a practice that's so horrible and so egregious, but we let it go forward. At least one parent will have to be a citizen or a legal resident in order to qualify. We will secure our borders and we will restore our sovereignty starting on day one. Our country will be great again. Our country will be a country again. We'll have borders, we'll have proper education, and we'll put America first. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Let's see. All right. Everybody heard that. Okay. Greetings, Brother Cornelius from the House of Cornelius. Glad you was able to join us today. I'm still waiting on the name from Tribe Ties. You stated I'm here. I don't know who you are though. All right. So let's deal with this issue. Citizenship. There's only 4 ways that one can have citizenship here in North America. So everyone who watches this lesson, you better choose one. Because either one is wrong. There's 4 ways, but there's only one proper way of having citizenship here in North America. And that way is the way we give you, or the way it all originally was that we restored. And that way is under what we call the common law. Okay? There's a common law for nationals and a common law for foreigners. Okay? The legal term for national is a naturalized citizen here, but that's not the original meaning of the word national. Naturalized means or involves just soil. A true national involves both, being born of the soil and of the blood. If you're not born of the two, then you're still a foreigner. Okay? You're still a foreigner. So let's go through the 4 ways of citizenship in North America, and the instrument that proves one's citizenship here in North America. Okay? First of all, let's define birthright. No, let's do it this way. Calvin's case, also known as the case of Post-Denai, was a 1608 English legal decision establishing the child born in Scotland after the Union of the Crowns. When we say Union of the Crowns, we're talking about the Union of the Crowns was in 1603. Okay? 1603. The Union of the Crown. All right, let's just pull that up. Make sure I'm right. Yeah. So you got to know your history. The Union of the Crowns was the ascension of King James VI of Scotland, all right, to the throne of the Kingdom of England as the first James, and the practical unification of some functions such as overseas diplomacy, i.e., overseas possessions, i.e., the Commonwealth territories, all right, of the 2 separate rims under a single individual on the 21st of March, 1603. It followed the death of King James' cousin Elizabeth I, the last monarch from the Tudor dynasty. Okay? Tudor dynasty resulted from Henry VII and Henry VIII, were cadet branches of the Lancaster, which was a cadet branch for the Plantagenet crown, as well as the York, going through what we call a period called the War of the Roses, which initiated the 100-Year War. Okay? I ain't got time to go through that. Those who watched the platforms or who are members understand that history. So let's go back. Calvin case was a case establishing that a child born in Scotland after the Union of the Crowns under King James VI of Scotland and now the first of England in 1603 was considered under the common law to be an English subject. All right, not an heir, but a subject and entitled to the benefits of the English law, not Scottish law under Scottish common law, but English law under English common law, protected as a subject of English, but not a nationalized, all right, as foreigners, which was what America adopted in the time of they were being known as the colonies. All right. Calvin case was eventually adopted by the courts in the United States and the case played an important role in shaping the American rule of birthright citizenship via just soil, law of the soil, or citizenship by virtue of the birth within the territory of the sovereign state. Didn't say anything about just sanguineous. Okay? Didn't say anything about just sanguineous. Under the feudal system, the allegiance owed to the king by his subjects, contrast to citizens, connected as it was to behold of interest of land. So it involves your right to property based upon your allegiance, which is based upon the oath, based upon the feudal systems, based upon the inheritance that you receive. Not as an heir, but as a tenant in chief that was conveyed to you by a landlord, all right, i.e., freeholder. Okay, so under the feudal system, the allegiance owed to the king by his subjects, connected as it was to the holding of interest in land, ruled out the possibility of any given individual holding land in two different kingdoms. Robert Calvin, born in Scotland in November 1605, was granted the state of England, but his right to that were challenged on the grounds that as Scots, he could not legally own English land. Are y'all listening to what I'm saying to y'all? Okay? Scottish didn't have a right to inheritance of land. They only had a right to it based upon their interest in the land as a result of the Union of the Crowns in 1603. We're not even talking about the Treaty of Union of 1707. Okay? This you must comprehend. So that was the first form of foreign citizenship here in lands that were controlled in the overseas territories known as the English overseas possessions that's over here in what we call the Anglo Sphere. The Anglo Sphere. Okay, what's the second type of citizenship? The second type of citizenship was those created through the Naturalization Act of 1790 at the time of the colonies and the time of the founding fathers, all right, under their central and weak government that took over the government that was originally here, which was the crown government under the provincial Congress, under the provincial council that was his King's Majesty's Council. Okay? So let's look at the Naturalization Act. Because if you don't fall in the Calvin case, then you fall under the Naturalization Act, and that don't include us identified as Negro, blacks, colored, Ethiopians, and whatever else. It only denotes to those who are classified by way of their color of skin color. Okay? Let's read it. The Naturalization Act of 1790 was enacted March 26, 1790. Was a law of the United States Congress that set the first uniform rules for the granting of the United States citizenship by naturalization. Did y'all hear that? By naturalization. No one can escape that clause. The law limited naturalization to free white persons of good character, thus excluding Native Americans, indentured service, enslaved people, free Africans, Pacific Islanders, and non-white Asians. Now, we need to examine that because if excluded all those characteristics of people that they define, which didn't fall under the classification as white persons, that means that the only way you can become a citizen is by some act that allows you to be a part of the original enactment of what they call naturalization. Okay? We must comprehend. Failure to do so will result in your right to disposition. Okay? To be deported. This eliminated ambiguity on how to treat newcomers gives that free black people have been allowed citizenship at the state level in many states. So that means black people had the right to citizenship on the state level, but many of you don't understand the state prior to it becoming incorporated as a state, and that's the source of your problem. Okay? And reading the Naturalization Act, the courts also associated whiteness with Christianity and thus excluded Muslim immigrants from citizenship until the decision of Ex parte Mores recognized the citizenship for a Saudi Muslim man in 1944. We must understand what's at stake. Congress modeled the Naturalization Act after the Plantation Act of 1740. This was another act created by the Parliament. Okay, let's review that right quick. The Plantation Act of 1740, referring to the times when they were colonies, or the Naturalization Act of 1740, are common names used for an act of the British Parliament. That was officially titled an act for naturalizing such foreign Protestants and others thereby mentioned as are settled or shall be settled in any of His Majesty's colonies in America. You hear that? Okay? It's before the Naturalization Act of 1790, which we black people were not included in that type of package still. But we had some type of affiliation with some type of citizenship on the state level, but we must trace that citizenship because we must not stop at the Plantation Act of 1740 because they were dealing with aliens who were Protestants. So we go back farther than that. We just forgot. Let's see. The act became effective on 1st of June, 1740, and allowed any Protestant alien residing in any of their American colonies for 7 years without being absent from that colony for more than 2 months to redeem His Majesty's natural born subjects of this kingdom. So Protestants' right to become citizens at the time in American colonies, i.e. aliens, were different from those whose citizenship came from a affiliation with the state on the state level, but it wasn't at the time when the colony existed, because at that time the only people who were allowed to be citizens, i.e. aliens, were Protestants. How many of you agree with me on this platform today that that is actually correct? Give me a thumbs up. Background of that. Reflecting the situation in Britain, the necessary professions of Christians faced with distinctly Protestant and specifically Anglican. The act was not intended for conscientious Roman Catholics, and they were referred to in law as papists. Exceptions, however, for non-conforming religious scruples and conscience were made, and conscience were made in the case of Quakers and Jews. Inherent of both faiths were allowed to dispense with the sacramental tests, with the former being allowed to affirm the oath and the later being relieved of the obligation to repeat the words upon the true faith of Christians at the end of the oath of abjuration, required a act of settlement since 1701. We know what abjuration is. All right, a renunciation of your citizenship. Everyone renounced their citizenship or their subjectivity to the English crown by following laws that don't relate to the English crown. And the only law that relates to the English crown is the English common law. Okay? The English common law. Let's go back. I hope y'all writing these things down. All right? So that's two ways. The Calvin's case, it automatically led to the Naturalization Act of 1717. The Calvin case led to the Plantation Act of 1740. Okay, and this is where America got their mode of citizenship from. Okay, we must comprehend that. Let's move on to the next one. Greetings, Brother Thomas from the House of Thomas. Glad you were able to join us. Now we got the 14th Amendment, which those who were at the time prior to the 14th Amendment were slaves, but had some type of affiliation with citizenship on the state level. But at the time, on the state level, their citizenship was taken from them as a result of them being deemed as property. Okay? Intangible property. If you study the Dred Scott case, it would tell you that. All right? But the 14th Amendment had to deal with those who were emancipated by way of the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution was adopted on July 9, 1868, as one of the Reconstruction Amendments, usually considered one of the most consequential amendments. It addresses citizenship rights and equal protection under the law and was proposed in response to the issue relating to formerly enslaved Americans following the American Civil War. Okay? We must understand that. And then there's one more, the Immigration Act. Let's pull that up. Greetings, Brother McGarrett from the House McGarrett. Glad you was able to join me. Partners for the study. So the Immigration Act and Nationality Act of 1965. Now, we all heard what Trump said. All these forms that we're going over are illegal under the Constitution. They're illegal because immigration is segregated. I mean, was promulgated by the legislative branch, Article 1, Section 9. America was founded off immigration, dealing with foreign citizenship. Trump was trying to restore that original citizenship, but not for those who understand citizenship on the national level, dealing with just soil and just saying greenness, not just based upon just soil. Two different types of citizenship. One by just being born on the soil. You heard the saying, just because you're born on the soil don't make you a citizen. You gotta have that blood tie. You gotta be of the family. Immigration Act and Nationality Act, i.e., mean the same thing, a naturalized citizen, also known as the Hart-Celler Act, and more recently the 1965 Immigration Act through amendment, was a federal law passed by the 89th United States Congress and signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson. The law abolished national origin formula. You hear that? The law abolished national origin formula. All right. Somebody needs to look that up. I ain't got time to do it right now. Which has been the basic of United States immigration policy since 1920. The act formally removed de facto discrimination against Southern and Eastern European, as well as Asians, in addition to other non-Western Northern European ethnicities from the immigration policies of the United States. So this is when they start to relax, all right, and extend the citizenship. And this is the reason why it's got out of hand up to this point. Okay? We must comprehend that. None of this has to do with us. People identify as Negro, Blacks, Colored, Ethiopian. Has nothing to do with us unless you choose to have something to do with what it is that they're talking about. It's your choice. All right? It is a choice. What is birthright citizenship? Because a lot of you don't understand that. United States citizenship can be acquired by birthright in two situations: by virtue of the person's birth within the United States territory, or because at least one of their parents was in the United States at the time of the person's birth. Birthright citizenship contrasts with citizenship acquired in other ways, for example, by naturalization. So there's a difference between a birthright citizenship and those of naturalization allowed to become over here as a result of not being born on the soil. But the birthright citizenship being born on the soil is the same as a person coming over from another country and becoming a citizen. You're still a naturalized citizen because it only has to deal with what? An oath of allegiance. An oath of allegiance. Boy, y'all better pay attention because Donald Trump is not playing. We ain't worried about it. All right? We're not worried about it. Birthright citizenship is guaranteed to most people born on United States territory by the first part of citizenship clause introduced by the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution adopted July 9, 1868. All persons born or naturalized in the United States is subject to the jurisdiction thereof and are citizens of the United States and of the states wherein they reside. So even though you're born here, you are still a naturalized citizen. If you're not a naturalized citizen, by saying you're not born in the territory of the United States through their incorporation, then you are still a foreigner because there's no law that are uniform with the United States to show that there is a law that the United States recognized in regards to citizenship. Because if you're a foreigner, yeah, they recognize foreign international law, but that has nothing to do with the internal aspect of the internal government. You have an embassy to go to if there's a conflict with your status. Okay? What does the citizens of the state, who do they want to for their internal conflict when there's a conflict with their government and the protection of their rights? Because according to them, you are still a naturalized citizen. You were allowed to become a citizen through a process they created that's foreign to the original process that was here under what, y'all? Everybody said the common law. Okay. The amendment overrode the Supreme Court decision in Dred Scott versus Sanford. Y'all better read that case in its entirety. A lot of you scan over it, but there's so much in that case that a lot of you don't understand. I went through that case, so scan through the lectures in regards to the Dred Scott case and my examination of it, and see my dissent on it. All right. And it will be different from anything you ever heard. All right. And it all involves your status as a national here as English Anglo-Saxon Berbers. Okay. Very important to understand that. The amendment overrode the Supreme Court decision in Dred Scott 1857 that denied United States citizenship to African Americans, whether born in the United States or not, and whether a slave or a free person. You hear that? So you could have been imported or you could have been born here as a slave. The United States citizenship had nothing to do with you. Why? Because you have no law to protect you that was here prior to that status that they gave you. Okay? You must understand history because that involves just sanguineous, being born of the blood of somebody who was originally on this soil who had a birthright inheritance. And the only one that can have such a right in just soil and just sanguineous is an English Anglo-Saxon Berber. I'm going to prove it to you. Let's get there. This includes territories Puerto Rico, Marinians, Guam, and the Northern Marinian Islands, and the United States Virgin Islands. The subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Clauses exclude Native Americans living under tribal sovereignty and United States-born children of foreign diplomats. Birthright citizenship was later extended to United States-born Native Americans, subject by Indian Citizenship Act of 1924. Tribal sovereignty is limited to the territory where the sovereignty exists. All right, only within the defined in the in compliance to the Indian Removal Act. Okay, we must comprehend that. Federal law also granted birthright citizenship to children born elsewhere in the world to United States citizenship with certain exceptions known as just sanguineous right of blood. You better write those terms down because they're going to be very important in lieu of your comprehension. What is just soil? Let's go through it. Just soil. Just soil, meaning right of soil, is a right of anyone born in the territory of the state to the nationality or citizenship, also commonly referred to as a birthright citizenship in some Anglophone countries, and is a rule defining a person's nationality based on the birth and the territory of the country. Just soil was part of the English common law in contrast to just sanguineous right of blood, which derives from what they say Roman law, which is a damn lie. Straight up lie. You know what I'm saying? We're going to prove it. It's a straight lie. Just so is a predominant rule in America's explanation for this geographical phenomenon, including the establishment of lenient laws by past European colonial powers to entice immigrants from the old world and displace native populations in the new world, along with the emerging successful wars of independent movements that widened the definition of granting citizenship as a prerequisite to the abolishment of slavery since the 19th century. This is called, as I said in my last lesson, freeholders. It's called prescription of sovereignty. Okay? Prescription of sovereignty. All right, let's move forward. Versus just sanguineous. What is just sanguineous? Just sanguineous, meaning right of blood, is a principle of nationality law by which nationality is determined or acquired by the nationality of one or both of the parents. Children at birth may be national of a particular state if either or both of their parents have nationalities of that state. It may also apply to national identities of ethnic, cultural, or other origins. Citizenship can also apply to children whose parents belong to a diaspora and were not themselves citizens of the state conferring citizenship. This principle contrasts with just soil right of soil, which is solely based on the place of birth. So you know the difference between the two. Just sanguineous and just soil in regards to birthright citizenship. But we must understand that the citizenship in North America is not based upon just sanguineous. It's based upon just soil. And we know that those who are foreigners is not based upon just sanguineous. It's based upon just soil because when they left their birthright based upon just sanguineous, they committed an act of abjuration. Okay, they denounced their citizenship, which is an act of treason. Everyone, give me a thumbs up if you like what you just heard. All right, let's get it. Let's get it, y'all. Let's hear it from the horse's mouth. Archives of the United States Department of Justice. All right. Archives from the United States Department of Justice. Title 18 United States Code, Section 1028. We're going to read it for ourselves. I don't play around. Everyone needs to look this up. You can thank Archbishop for this. This is from your Archbishop, constantly working for the temple and working for the people, trying to bring out this information. All right. This is from your Archbishop. It's sitting right here, and none of you even looked at it. Okay. None of your scholars, none of your teachers, none of the people who work for the teachers are producing information like we do here at the English Third Temple Church of England for your salvation. Okay. This is your Archbishop work. Okay. And me and him work together. We like two peas in the pod. So I got to give gratitude to Archbishop Belmont from the House of Belmont. We appreciate you, brother. Specifically mentions identification documents, not a driving license, something that which identifies you. Okay? Everyone knows what identification means, right? To identify. And how something identifies you is some type of instrument, referring to your status, especially when you're dealing with either subjectivity or citizenship here in North America. All right. We ain't in no other country. We over here in North America. And we got the 4 qualifications that they gave you. All right. The Settlement Act of 1740. Okay. The Naturalization Act of Nationality Act of 1790. The 14th Amendment and the Immigration Act. Okay. And all the amendments to that. All right. So everyone pay attention. Specifically mention identification documents, Title 18 United States Code 1028. Now, the reason why I'm coming here is because when you read the statutes, they leave out important justification for the creation of the statute. Okay? So this is the reason why you have to further elaborate on why a statute is created. All right? Which this is why we refer to the United States Department of Justice Archive. All right, because it expounds upon Title 18 United States Code 1028. Let's read it in its entirety. Not in its entirety, but let's read some of it. Section 1028 of the Title 18 designates 3 special non-federal identification documents and gives them preferred treatment. These 3 documents, in the absence of a nationality identity card, are the prime means by which an individual establishes his identity in the United States. I repeat. Section 1028 of the Title 18 designates 3 special non-federal federal identification documents and gives them preferred treatment. These three documents, in the absence of a national identity card, are the primary means by which an individual establishes identity in the United States. The three documents are: one, a birth certificate, A; B, a driver license, and C, a personal identification card. So they didn't say a personal nationality identification card. This is the personal identification card, contrast to a driver license or a birth certificate. Those are the three. And I'm pretty sure everyone that are not listening or are listening understand that these are the primary instruments that do not add up to a nationality ID card. Okay? When they stop you and say identification card, no one's walking around with their birth certificate. If anything they got in their possession is a driver license and a personal identification card, which does not show your nationality on it. Correct? Everyone throw thumbs up if you understand what I'm saying. Okay? It will look something like this. We really don't. Bear with me. Oh, I know where it's at. It will look something like this. Every other state might be different. But in New Jersey, this is what the proof of citizenship in the United States will look like: a driver license, an identification card, or a birth certificate. You ain't got a birth certificate in your pocket. You either walk around with this or an ID card. All right? Very, very important for you to comprehend what's being said to you. All right? So there are three types of documents that they give you: a birth certificate, a driver license, personal identification card. And if you go back to the driver license, everyone look on the driver license. It says right there, not for real ID purposes. I repeat, not for real ID purposes. So if this what you have in your pocket, then you are the one are going to be deported, because this does not identify a real person. So you will be deported. Why? Because this is not a nationality card. Okay? This is not a nationality card. And if you do have a nationality card, then laws that protect that nationality must be recognized in the laws of the state. You just can't make up your law by way of you creating an ID. All right? That's a crime. That is a criminal violation. You don't believe me? They said I committed a criminal violation by creating a false ID. This is what they said. Let's look at it. Watch how bad your king is. Commitment. You hear that? Commitment. They said commitment. We know commitment means an obligation. The state of New Jersey versus Clifford Jefferson. The instrument that they use to make the arrest, as we can see here, based upon the information on the instrument, i.e., the commitment, i.e., the contract, shows the driver license number, the sex, the eye color, the date of birth, state, and whatever else they got on it. Okay? As you can see, this is the driving license, which, based upon what the archives of the Justice Department said, is what's giving in place of a national ID. Do everyone understand what I just said? This is what is giving in replace of a national ID. All right? The driving license right there. So I didn't give them a driver license when they arrested me for so-called creating a false deed. Okay? They said I created a false deed, all right, in lieu of returning the land to the king and his heirs, which they can't prove, as well as offering a false deed. Identification card. Okay? So they didn't use my card that they had. They used the information based upon the driving license to identify the person, but it does not associate an individual with um uh uh that has nothing to do with a nationality card. It does identify a person, all right, but it doesn't identify his nationality, and that would denote to one's citizenship is either national or immigrant. We must comprehend that. Okay? Let's go back to the article. A birth certificate is not defined in Title 18 United States Code, Section 1028, which we're just reading. Since it is self-explanatory, this document is issued by different agencies in different states and in foreign countries. So foreign countries and states issue out birth certificates, okay? Nevertheless, it represents the official governmental statement by the proper governmental agency that a person having such a name was born on a particular date and in a particular place in a particular place of specific parentage. Obviously, a birth certificate is not intended to actually identify the person who claims such a document pertains to him. There are few physical characteristics that remain the same as those at the time of birth. Nevertheless, the birth certificate has become a commonly accepted as the identification document in this country. So it's a certificate of identification. It does not properly identify you based upon, as it stated, what it says, what's the word they use? It does not intend to properly identify the person who claims an interest in such document. Okay? It does not properly identify you. Why? Because it's not a nationality card. A nationality properly identifies you. ID card just identifies you according to the information that's on it, i.e., when it lacks the nationality, then it has nothing to do with your protected rights as a subject or your protected rights as an immigrant, because that was not the purpose and intent of those three instruments that we just mentioned: a birth certificate, a driver license, and a personal identification card. Okay? Driver license is not defined in Title 18 United States Code, Section 1028. The origin purpose of this government issued document was to state that a particular person was authorized to operate a vehicle upon the public roadways. It was not intended to establish one's identity. Because the absence of a better document, however, the driver license eventually had become a commonly accepted as the national identity card. Section 1028 covers both domestic as well as foreign governmental issues of driving license. Did you hear that? So they had swapped your identity from a natural person with a nationality to an identity to just a person that's just a legal entity. Okay? And that's the purpose of the personal identification card, which is what you carry if you're not driving. Okay? Personal identification card is defined in 18 United States Code 1028, Section D, Section 4, to mean a identification document issued by a state or local government solely for the purpose of identification. This definition would appear to limit such documents to those issued by domestic, i.e., within the United States. Governmental entities, in contrast to the first two birth certificate and driver license, this document is normally issued by the State Department of Motor Vehicles to provide an identification document for those persons who do not, for some reason, obtain a driver license. In 1979, the National Committee of Uniform Traffic Laws and Ordinances, authors of the Uniform Vehicle Code, UVC, provided for the issuance of identification cards for non-drivers and restriction on the lawful use of such cards. The UVC, a Uniform Vehicle Code, which serves as the model state code for vehicle matters, define a public personal identification card as a document issued by the Department of Motor Vehicles for the sole purpose of identifying the bearer and not authorized for use as a driving license. Do everyone understand that? So there's a difference between a driver license, a birth certificate, and a personal ID card, and they're not synonymous with a nationality card, as it just said. These three documents, in the absence, meaning you don't have a nationality card, okay? We must understand. Okay. So let's go to the actual statute. Title 18, Crimes and Criminal Procedures. Frauds and false statements, okay? Fraud and relevant activity in connection with identification documents. All right? Frauds related activity in connection with identification document. Whoever in circumstances described in subsection C of this section, and you can go to your own state and find it in your state, knowingly and without lawful authority produces an identification document or a false identification document. To knowingly transfer an identification document or a false identification document, knowing that such document was stolen or produced without lawful authority. Or 3, knowingly possessed with the intent to use unlawfully or transfer unlawfully 5 or more identification documents other than those issued lawfully for those use of possession or false identification documents. So this is basically what you just read in the New Jersey Archive from the Department of Justice. The same exact thing, okay? And they define birth certificate, driver license, and personal identification cards, okay? So you can look to the Justice Department elaboration on what the statute that's enacted now based upon the identification card. And those 3 are used, which are synonymous with the birth certificate, driver license, and a personal ID card, which both are not synonymous with a nationality card. Because the only one that can give you a nationality card is a nation. Okay? Is a nation. We must comprehend that. All right? And they said that your king committed such an act by creating a false identification card. Okay? 2C21 3B. Okay? Offering a false ID card. Let me show you this. All right. Arguing, presenting a false ID card. Right there. All right. Offering a false ID. Now they first got to get past this hurdle. Okay. You said I committed a false ID, but on the ID that you give from the state said right on it that it's not for real ID purposes. So who ID is actually false? Is it mine or yours? Because the one that I have from the New Jersey Motor Vehicle says that it's not for real ID purposes. This is what it says on it. All right. It's not a national ID, and if the one on it says it's not for real ID purpose, then it's up to me to identify who I am based upon the law. Okay, and not just what I want to say I am and have no law to substantiate that. Very important, because the only law you have to substantiate who you are based upon a real ID and a false ID, which this clearly is, because it's not for real ID purposes, in which you lock me up for under the statute, clearly is a violation of your own law, because this is not a proper form of identification to identify one's citizenship or one's immigration status. We're going to prove it. Let's first go to the statute that you used to lock me up. This shows you how incompetent that these people who practice law are. Incompetency. 2023 New Jersey Revised Statute, New Jersey Code of Criminal Justice, 2C2121, Section A and B. Offenses involving false government documents. Listen very close. I didn't do anything that they said I did. Oh, I got a pre-indictment hearing this November 8th. All right, I got a pre-indictment hearing, and we know pre-indictment hearing is based upon being able to resolve the matter before they go to a grand jury. And this 8 months now, so ain't no grand jury even seen the indictment, which is 7-page probable cause indictment based upon what I'm showing you now, and it's notwithstanding. Why? Because you can't convict me. You're not even supposed to use a driving license to arrest a person in a criminal offense or in an investigation or detain or in the detention. I'm going to prove it to you. You can't use this document because these documents do not properly identify you. Okay? But yes, I have a pre-indictment scheduled for November 8th, which is they're going to dismiss it. And when they dismiss it, I already have a criminal complaint filed in Superior Court for malicious prosecution. As a result of the malicious prosecution of them arresting me off a false instrument that they call a driving license, which clearly says in the statute that you can't use it to arrest me. We didn't even deal with the property issue. That's yet to be dealt with, which they can't deal with it because in the probable cause indictment, the clerk called me King Clifford Jefferson. Okay? So if you're not dealing with the identification that I presented to them, which they're claiming to be false under this statute of reason, let me just show you ID, which I presented to them. Okay? This is how bad I am. This is the 2C21-3B, which we're going to read in a second. There's A and B of 2C21-B, and sell a false deed, as well as offering a false ID. Sale of a fake deed, i.e., the deed that I went to go file to take the land back, which they have not proven yet because I am the king. I have the right to do it because the land is Zolio, and if there's no heirs, then it automatically issues back to the king as a result of interstate. That's the concept of why the crown was created. And then creating and offering a false ID. Well, let's look at if my ID was false based upon what the statute said. Because I didn't create a birth certificate. I didn't create a driver license, nor did I create a national identification card for motor vehicles. I created an ID that has the nationality on it. Let's take a look at it. Right here. Now these are our IDs, identification card, i.e., nationality cards. Okay, these are our cards, and our ID cards, which denotes to our nationality, is protected by the law. You see, these are statutes. Okay, 61-28, rights seen under the charge of Great Britain, safe from repeal, an act to incorporate trustees for religious societies for property held in corporation place thereof. Section 4 of that gives you the power that we have as a religious society as well as a body of politics, i.e. a government. Okay? So our laws are there. Okay? Our race, i.e. our ethnicity, is Anglo-Saxon Berbers in full life. Okay? All right? This is what we get. You hear it? It said nationality. English national. The cards, they can't give you a nationality card. All right? They don't have the authority to give you a nationality card. So in absence of that, they give you what they got. Okay? And 9 times out of 10, majority of you have that card. If you created that your own, it better be in accordance with some type of law. Okay? Here's the back of our card. Okay? This is the royal standard of an English national. All right? We have the authority to do this. Let's prove it that we got the authority to do this. All right? Let's prove it. All right, so let's go back to the statute in which they said I committed a fraudulent act. Bear with me, y'all. Everybody hold that thought. Hey, what's going on? All right, sorry about that. All right. So offenses involving false government documents. see where we're at. Okay. The person offense involving the false document. I want to make sure my phone is up to speed. All right, 2C21 2-1. Okay. A and B. They say I committed B. All right. They said I violated B. Let's see. All right, make sure you guys see that. All right. A person who knowingly sells, offers, or exposes for sale, or otherwise transfer or possesses within intent to sell, offer or expose for sale, or otherwise transfer a document, printed form, or other writing which falsely purports to be a driving license, birth certificate, or other document issued by a government agency, and which could be used as a means of verifying person's identity or age or any other person's identifying information, is guilty of a crime in the second degree. B, a person who knowingly makes or possesses a device or material to make a document or other writing which falsely purports to be a driving license, birth certificate, or other document issued by a governmental agency, and which can be used as a means of verifying personal identity or age or any other person identifying information, is guilty of a crime in the second degree. So if this is the case, that means that your ID is a crime. Yours only says not for real ID purposes, okay? Because this is not a nationality card, okay? You can never give somebody a nationality card. So the only card you give them is the one that says ID, okay? ID. And on the one that we have now recently, and majority you have in your pocket, it says not for real ID purposes. But before it said it not for real ID purposes, it still say real ID on it. Okay, it was for real ID according to the motor vehicle statute. Let's go to the statute. Let's go to the statute and see what the statute say. Let's see what the statute say. Because the one you have now says not for real ID purpose. If we go to Jersey Motor Vehicles, or as well as any other motor vehicles that give out IDs, driving license, all right, it says New Jersey Motor Vehicles. Let me make sure you see that. Title 39, Motor Vehicles and Traffic Regulations, Section 393-29.3, Identification Cards. Okay? Everyone listen. Identification cards. A. New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission shall issue an identification card to any resident of a state who is 14 years of age or older who is not the holder of a valid permit or basic driver license. So if you ain't got a driver license or valid permit, the only thing they're going to give you to identify yourself is an identification card. The identification card shall attest to the true name, correct age, and veteran status upon submission of satisfactory proof by any veteran, or to contain other identity data as certified by the applicant for such identification card. Every application for the identification card should be signed and verified by the applicant and should be accompanied by the written consent of at least one parent or person's legal guardian if the person is under 17 years of age. And should be supported by such documentary evidence of the age, identity, and veteran status, or blindness or disability of such persons as the chief administrator may require. A person issued a real identification card pursuant to this section may be issued a standard identification card or a real ID and identification card. Now, the ID I just showed you now says it's not for real ID. So why all of a sudden did it just change? Why did all of a sudden just change not a real ID now when under the statute it was part of the real ID? All right. The driver license and the identification card was part of the Real ID Act until they changed it, which stops in 2025, if I'm not mistaken, March. Okay. So why did they change it? All right. We must understand that. Everyone give me a thumbs up if you like what you just heard. A person issued an identification card pursuant to this section may be issued a standard identification card or a real ID identification card. The chief administrator should require any applicant for a standard identification card to provide proof of the applicant's identity, age, and residence, primary and secondary document, which the chief administrator should attribute point value in accordance with the point-based identification verification program established pursuant to Section 28 of Public Law 2003. Okay? So you are given a real ID. Now on it says not for real ID purposes. All right? Why? Why does it state that? Let's see. Section B. Anyone pay attention? As conditions for obtaining a real ID identification card, two documents providing satisfactory proof that the applicant is a New Jersey resident, proof of the applicant's social security number, or verification of eligibility for a social security number in accordance with the Real ID Act of 2005. Any act amendatory or supplementary thereto, and any federal regulations adopted thereunder, and proof that the applicant presence in the United States is authorized under the federal law. Now, this is the kicker. This is the kicker. Watch how they put their foot in their mouth. Any document, not this one, right here. Right here. Listen, y'all. This is power, especially in this case right here. Because you arrested me based upon this ID that you have on file for me. You arrested me, and it's not an identification card that actually identifies who I am. Okay? It doesn't identify my nationality. It doesn't identify my ethnicity. It doesn't show my affiliation with some type of government as a national or a subject or the sovereign. All right? My ID says on it, King Clifford Jefferson. All right? My ID that, yeah, it says King Clifford Jefferson. Let me just show you again. Well, it says Clifford Jefferson. Don't say King Clifford Jefferson, but I am the king. We know that. But my nationality is an English name. Okay, that's what I presented to them at the time of the infraction. I gave them this, and they said this was fraud. They said this instrument that I gave to them was fraudulent, and I made it up. I didn't have the authority to make it up. Okay, the only one that I was allowed to use was the one they created, which was the driver license or the ID card or the birth certificate. Those are the only three that I was allowed to use. Okay, that I was allowed to use. What's wrong with that? Let's see what motor vehicle statutes say about that. Okay, let's see. Possession. Listen, y'all. I don't care where you at. Possession of a standard identification card, and the real ID card is a standard card. Let's see. A person issued identification card pursuant to this section may be issued a standard identification card or a real ID identification card. So the only thing that's not a real ID identification card is the card that they have now. So this is a non-standard real ID card that we all have in our pocket. Okay? If it's not a standard ID card. And both cards has nothing to do with a nationality or some affiliation with some type of government. This is given from motor vehicles. Okay? From motor vehicles. All right? It's very important that you comprehend that. All right? So let's go back to the statute. In closing, This is motor vehicle statute in regards to identification card. It says right here, and I quote, possession of a standard identification card, a real ID, or a standard identification card that says not a real ID purposes is issued pursuant to this section should not be considered evidence of an individual's citizenship or immigration status. It should not be used as a basis for an investigation, arrest, citation, prosecution, or detention. I repeat, possession of a standard identification card issued pursuant to this section should not be considered evidence of an individual's citizenship or immigration status and should not be used as a basis for any investigation, arrest, citation, prosecution, or detention. So if that's the case, then isn't that what they just did to your king? Isn't that what they just did? They used that information to make their arrest. All that information right there. They use all that information to make that arrest, and motor vehicle statutes that you cannot use it to detain, investigate, citation, or any other thing dealing with some investigation of one's identity. Because in order for you to have subject matter jurisdiction, you must have personam jurisdiction. Okay? You must have personam jurisdiction, and they don't have it. All right? Everyone give me a thumbs up if you like what you're seeing. Let's come to our closing. Let's see what the Supreme Court has to say. Everyone listen. United States versus Sing Tonk or Do. 194 U.S.161, a 1904 case. It's dealing with citizenship based upon the Immigration Act, not the 14th Amendment, not the Naturalization Act, not Calvin case, but the amended Immigration Act. Okay, but the precedence for the decision was based upon this quote. It said, but it is said that an applicant did not prove before the immigration officer that they were citizens, that some simply alleged the fact, while others said nothing, that they were told that if they would give the name of two witnesses, their testimony would be taken and considered. But what provision of law is there for compelling the attendance of a witness before such immigration officers, witnesses, immigration officers are for taking dispositions, and what avail would an ex parte inquiry of such witness? Question: must an American citizen seek to return to this his native land by compelled to bring with him two witnesses to prove the place of his birth, or else be denied the right to return? In all opportunities of establishing his citizenship in this course of his country, I repeat, once an American citizen seeking to return to this his native land be compelled to bring with him two witnesses to prove the place of his birth, or else be denied the right to return, and all opportunities of establishing his citizenship in the course of his country. Question: no such rule is enforced against an American citizen of Anglo-Saxon descent. You hear that? No such rule is enforced against an American citizen of Anglo-Saxon descent. If this be, as claimed, a government of laws and not of men, I do not think it should be enforced against American citizens of Chinese descent as well. Did you hear that? If no such rule is enforced against American citizen of Anglo-Saxon descent, meaning we're dealing with citizenship, we know that a driver license, the birth certificate, or the identification card has nothing to do with citizenship as established by the motor vehicle, because motor vehicle is an agency created by a department that's affiliated with which is nothing more than a corporation. It's not attached to any government, because if it was, it would be a nation governed by national, and national has to deal with a nationality. Okay? And the nationality we see here that's protected by the laws of this country is that of Anglo-Saxon descent. Okay? Let's get another paramount case to qualify that. Enwei Ahmad Hassan, which also speaks about Chinese. Okay? Enwei Ahmad Hassan. All right? This is a 1942 case. All right? To summarize the approach which must be followed, make sure you get this. To summarize the approach which must be followed in deciding whether a particular person applying for citizenship is a white person within the meaning of the statute and interpreted by the Supreme Court, it is necessary to determine the particular group of racial subdivision to which the individual belongs. The practical effect of proof of this fact is a matter of genealogy. An individual who presents on an aberration from the color of skin of a group which he is a member, such as a light-skinned Chinese or Japanese or a member of a dark-skinned Anglo-Saxon, does not thereby acquire a different status. Here, the dark-skinned Anglo-Saxon, not just based on the color of skin or characteristics, but his genealogy, his ethnicity, does not thereby acquire a different status under the act from other members of its group. Because we see in the other case it says that we don't need to prove our citizenship by way of no law, or by no way of no witnesses, in lieu of us having the right to be here, because it's already established in the law. Okay? So it says, any individual who presents the aberration from the color of skin of a group which he is a member, such as a light-skinned Chinese or a Japanese or dark-skinned Anglo-Saxon, does not thereby acquire a different status under the act of other members of his group. Of course, when an individual is applying for citizenship, when an individual applying for citizenship has a skin of different color than is usual for the member of the group which he claims to come, a strong burden of proof then rests upon him to show by the usual methods of proving genealogy that he is in fact of that group. After the individual has been traced into that group by showing that or meeting that burden through genealogy, the second question he must ask himself, or you must ask yourself, which the court must answer, is whether the member of the group as a whole, as a white person, as Congress understood it in the terms of the 1790 Nationalization Act, the Settlement Act of 1740, the 14th Amendment, as well as the Immigration Act, and any other act that can create for that matter, when it was first enacted by the statute or the amendment of the statute, is deciding the latter question. The test is not how the group in question will be classified based off ethnologists who have made a study of racial origin, but rather what the group of people then living in 1790 with the characteristics then existing were intended by Congress to be classified as white persons. Applying this principle to the court finds that petitioner is an Arab, and that Arab is not a white person within the meaning of that act. And if it's based upon the characteristics as defined by the instruments given by those that have nothing to do with genealogy and ethnicity, but based upon the classification, based upon the instruments given by the motor vehicles, which is driver's license, motor vehicle, and that was given by the Department of Health, a birth certificate. It had nothing to do with genealogy, it had nothing to do with ethnicity, and those instruments are a violation because it denotes a contractual agreement and a commitment, and it just said you are not to use those in the court of law. But none of you can raise that argument in the court of law because you have nothing else in your present possession to prove that who you are in fact are. Okay? And for that, you need a nationality that's recognized by the law. Okay? That's recognized by the law. So with that, I'm going to play this video once again for those who missed it, so that you can understand what's at stake now. Because if you're not English national or pledge your allegiance to the English crown, there's nothing I can do for you. Okay? There's nothing I can do for you. This is coming down the pipe. For all you non-nationals, all those who don't have a birthright from blood. Because just because you're born here does not make you a citizen. Okay? Just because you're born here does not make you a citizen. I'm trying to make it wider. Bear with me. Where did it go? Oh, here it go.
Joe Biden has launched an illegal foreign invasion of our country, allowing a record number of illegal aliens.
Not this one.
Former President Donald Trump now pledging a sweeping immigration crackdown. He wins the White House again. Among his promises, mass keep.
All right, let's get there.
Former President Donald Trump now pledging a sweeping immigration crackdown. He wins the White House again. Among his promises, mass deportations, ending birthright citizenship, and denying entry legal immigrants based on their ideological beliefs. CBS News immigration reporter Camilo Montoya Galvez, who is following the former president in Houston, joins us now. Thank you for being here. You've written an extensive report for CBS News about what could loom on the horizon for 2025. Who in the former president's inner circle, Camilo, is pushing this, and where does this actually go in terms of a legislative agenda?
Hi, Bob. Good afternoon. Former President Donald Trump certainly believes that this is a galvanizing issue for his voters. He is hoping to use this issue again to potentially win back the White House and to return there in 2025. In fact, he has promised to oversee a complete overhaul in U.S. immigration and border policy if he is elected in 2024. The former president, that is, has promised mass deportations, the largest deportation operation in U.S. history, more specifically, and he has promised to do that by invoking a law from 1798 to deport gang members and by enlisting the National Guard, Bob, to arrest migrants. He has also promised to enact new screenings for legal immigrants to deny entry to those who have certain political beliefs, such as Marxists, as the former president would call them, and he has promised to deny U.S. citizenship to the children of undocumented immigrants, those who are living here in the country unlawfully. His rhetoric on immigration, Bob, has also escalated and intensified. He recently said that some migrants here are poisoning the blood of the country, and so the former president, believes that this is certainly a winning issue for him. But I do have to underscore, Bob, that many of these proposals, such as ending birthright citizenship through executive action, will certainly face formidable legal and operational challenges.
That's certainly going to be the case. The courts will be looking at all of this if it ever happens. Camilo Montoya Galvez, thank you so much.
Okay. So as you can see, all those who are at the sound of my voice understand what's going on. The United States wants to keep slavery going on by import more immigrants, where Trump is trying to stop it so that they can get all the money. But nonetheless, they are not aware of who is the true enforcer of the law in regards to who is the one to preserve and protect the true nationals of the country and expel those who are not national, i.e. foreigners. So with that, understand that it's coming, okay? Whether it's going to be by Donald Trump or it's going to be by me. It's coming, okay? So get to work, brothers and sisters. Understand how important this movement is to your safety, to your protection, and to your longevity. So with that, are there any questions on the floor before I chime out? Are there any questions on the floor? Are there any questions on the floor before I chime out? I always say, it's better you to not know this than to know this and not follow it, for you will be held more accountable. Okay, so if there's no questions, I'm gonna take it as if you understand it and you comprehend it, and it's better you to not know it and not follow it. Meaning that if you don't apply it, then what's the sense of knowing it, right? So no one has an excuse for ignorance as well as stagnation. All right, we all have to continue to grow. All right, we all must grow. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you, true man. I appreciate it for that compliment. All right. It's for all of you. I'm doing this for all of you, not for myself. What profits a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? What will he give in exchange for his soul? Nothing. You know what I'm saying? What's the purpose of having all this and nothing but enemies around? Okay. Thank you, Brother McGarrett from the House of McGarrett. I'm glad you do. All right. So study well. Okay. Continue to study. Pass this information on to those you know. If there's any platforms out there, I'm pretty sure there's other platforms that you brothers and sisters go to. Remember, your blood is on their hands. You can tell me all day, but the ancestors know what you're doing in your off time. Okay? They know what you're doing in your off time, so you're gonna have to stand before them. I know what I do in my off time is what I'm doing now. I'm studying. So if you're doing something contrary to what it is that you should be doing in your off time, as well as the time that you are using, and it's not based upon the law of your ancestors, you are going to be held accountable because I'm not going to judge you. They're going to judge you. Okay? They're going to judge you. I can't stress this enough. It's better for you to change the channel than to watch this channel and not do nothing with it. Okay? All right, and not do nothing with it. All right. So once again, I love you all dearly. I rejoice in those who don't follow the rhetoric. You know what I'm saying? Those who are able to sift through the weeds, you know what I'm saying? Find the treasure that lies beneath that no one can see. And all those who are building this channel, you truly are shining pearls. Okay? So somebody needs to spread this message to Sign of the TV, House of Awakened Minds, Shawan Seti, because the more I watch these platforms, the more I'm discussed about what it is that they intentionally and knowingly do. They violate the laws of the ancestors. Okay? So with that, since there's no more questions, I'm always going to greet as you, and that's always how I meet at you. And that is in peace and love. Make sure you send your donations. $, Clifford Jefferson L. and Very Temple English Church of England. Pastor Manches, leave a comment in the chat as well as a comment in the comments so everyone can see your response. And if you leave a comment and response, I don't want to see no thumbnails. I want to see a comment of your interpretation upon the lesson. And it don't have to be lengthy, but showing that you interpret what the lesson said. Okay?